Welcome friends, this is a review of the 2024 Ineos Grenadier, a SUV that I've been really curious about, and thanks to Bentley in High Point, North Carolina, I have the opportunity of checking this vehicle out. They are the oldest Bentley dealership in the country, but now they are also a certified Ineos dealership. They have a bunch of selection and they can also ship nationwide. So if you see something that you like, I will have their dealership information in the description box below. Now let's go ahead and let's get this vehicle out on the road and see how it drives. All right, this is currently a great time for me to test this SUV because I have the 2024 Bronco to test, and I also currently own a 5th generation Toyota 4Runner. All right, so this all new Ineos Grenadier, it's powered by a 3-liter inline-6 BMW engine with 282 horsepower and 332 pounds-feet of torque. You know, the 0 to 60, it's about 9 seconds, but it feels a little bit more brisk than that in the real world. So I'm pleased to report that this is a true, proper off-roader. So similar to the Jeep Wrangler, what I'm noticing is you have to correct the steering a little bit more. It's like a really connected and organic experience, but unlike the Broncos and the 4Runners, there's strangely a decent refinement here, almost like a luxury-esque feel that I'm getting from the Ineos Grenadier. Yeah, we do have some subtle road noise, but really you hardly have any wind noise coming through, so I'm really impressed by that. We don't have here double pane glass or anything, but this is surprisingly quiet. I really wasn't expecting that type of a driving feel from the Ineos, but I'm pleased by it. The brakes are decent, like you have good confidence in them, but you just have to get in on them a little bit more. And the steering is the one thing that you have to get used to in this. For instance, there's a bit of a on-center deadness, and when you're doing your everyday turns, I don't know, I feel like a shuffling motion might be ideal for the Ineos. It's just a really unique driving experience, unlike anything else out there. Like things like my 4Runner and the Ford Bronco, they're still trying to give you a more traditional driving experience, and there's nothing wrong with that. But the Ineos is staying true to its off-road DNA. So much like a Focus sports car, this is a focused off-road machine. So I really respect it in that aspect. And this ride quality isn't bad either. You kind of notice some of these smaller bumps, but for the most part, the larger bumps, that gets absorbed extremely well. But yeah, I guess the biggest shock for me here is despite how focused it is as an off-roader, it still pulls off like this luxury car trait. So I'm pretty impressed by that. The only off-putting thing or something that most people would need to get used to is the constant needing for correction. Even on your everyday drives, like you constantly have to give it some steering input to, keep it in its lane. But again, they have the suspension set up that way to give you maximum articulation for off-roading. So this is the subtle compromise that you have to make, but I feel like if you're shopping for an SUV like this, you know the compromises that you have to make, and you kind of appreciate and even embrace it. Because it's the subtle things like this that give the Ineos charm out on the road. When you're driving this, you wouldn't think that this is a brand new manufacturer or a vehicle that's just come out. This feels like a solid, well-built automobile. There's no creaking or rattling in here. I'm going to talk more about that during the interior segment. But yeah, this vehicle, it just feels really well put together, and there's a smoothness about it. It's just really well executed. And I thought it was funny how they proudly say on the hood of this SUV that it's BMW powered. They're not trying to hide from it. That's pretty cool. So you have a tried and true drivetrain here with the inline-6 and with the 8-speed automatic. And really the most important thing is the Ineos is not doing anything weird out on the road. It's not tramlining or it's not following the imperfections out on the road. part of that could be because we have some good KO2 tires here. I'm glad they offer that as their OEM tire. But let's go ahead and let's part this SUV and let's wrap up this driving review. All right, now that we are parked, let's go ahead and let's quickly wrap up this driving segment. So as you can see, I'm a pretty big fan. Honestly, wasn't expecting the Ineos to be this refined and surprisingly quiet. This SUV does a good job insulating out some of that wind noise, and you get some subtle tire hum from these KO2s, but because these are KO2s, these are definitely going to be your more quieter all-terrain tires. So I'm really happy that they have this as their OEM tires here. Regarding comfort, that's also really good for an SUV like this. You know, the Grenadier, it weighs about 5,800 pounds. That's the curb weight, and it doesn't feel like it's crashing over the bumps. In fact, it does a great job absorbing the large bumps. And that's actually true of most off-road type SUVs. The Bronco, my 4Runner, and even the Wrangler, they all do a pretty good job of absorbing the larger bumps. But it's just some of these smaller bumps that gets translated underneath the vehicle. Again, it's the same with the Bronco, my 4Runner, you know, all these vehicles feel kind of the same in that regard. But the Ineos always reminds you that it's a real off-roader, so it's something that you always had to correct for out on the street, whereas something like a Bronco or a 4Runner still has that more traditional SUV driving feel. So it just depends on who you are. So with that established, let's go ahead and let's transition into this interior segment now. Let's quickly talk about this interior space, and I alluded to this during the driving segment, but man, this is a solid cabin space. Nothing is creaking or rattling in this. You would not think that this is a brand new manufacturer and their first attempt at building an automobile. Now, this is really tightly finished. All the trims on the doors, this massive aviation style cockpit, this looks great. Nice finishing. The buttons feel great. And I like how they're big enough where you can touch it with gloves on. And we have this interesting sunroof design. Again, very airplane cockpit-like. And, you know, these glass panels, you can actually open them for additional air. So that's very cool. But the front dash is a bit weird because you have this small screen in the middle, and that's only meant to show you the warning lights. Your actual like speedometer, tachometer, all of that is embedded into the infotainment screen. So some people may or may not like that. I honestly got used to it. The only thing I'm not a huge fan of is there is a slight amount of glare from the sun affecting this infotainment screen. So because they put all this important information there, it would have been nice if they had some type of coating to prevent that glare. But otherwise, it looks good and it's really easy to use, but there is a bit of lag when you touch the screen. And if you don't want to touch the screen, you can also use this rotary dial in the middle. You also have wireless Apple CarPlay here, which I'm really pleased to see. However, if you have an Android device, you will have to plug that in. Now, regarding the seats, they use Recaro seats in the front and in the rear. They're really comfortable, really supportive, but if you stick with the base model, it's still gonna be Recaro, but it's gonna be a cloth seat. So just depends on what you prefer. I personally like the leather, and I would get like an $80,000 Fieldmaster. I think that's the best value proposition in the Ineos lineup. The leather is also good quality. I like it on the steering wheel as well. And you have some perforations here. And something interesting is we have a second horn here. It's a slightly less aggressive horn to warn cyclists or pedestrians. I thought that was brilliant, actually. I wish more cars would offer that, so that's really well thought out. But this two-spoke design is a bit weird, especially since the steering is a bit unorthodox to begin with, like the mannerisms out on the road. It would have been nice if they would offer a three-spoke steering, but not a big deal. I like the size of it. I like smaller steering wheels, so that is pretty good. And as we all know, we have the BMW drivetrain, and they also stuck with the same BMW gear shifter. It would have been cool if they would offer a bespoke Ineos shifter, because we have such a cool, rugged, solid interior space, but we have this refined BMW shifter. It's not a big deal. I just thought I would bring it up. This is certainly familiar, it's functional, and it's easy to use. We have here a backup camera with the Ineos, but it's not a 360 or anything. But fortunately, I mean, seeing out of the front and on the sides of the Ineos is really good. It's easy to drive in that regard. It's just the rear, your vision is a bit blocked because of the spare tire and simply the way they have the rear tailgate designed. Center armrest and the glove box, they're not massive, but it's still practical. You can obviously put things in it. With all 4 windows, they will go down with one touch, but they will not go up one touch. Something else to note. And the audio system is a bit of an interesting story. There's a lot of good brightness and clarity here, but the bass is a bit buzzy, so that's the only thing I noticed regarding the audio system. Otherwise, this could have been one of the best, especially if you're going to compare this to the Bronco, the 4Runner, and the Jeep Wranglers. But if you're going to compare this to a new $80,000 Land Rover Defender, then sure, the Defender is going to have the better audio system. But regarding space, I am 5'11". Because of the boxy design, we have plenty of headroom here, good adjustability with the seats. It is mechanical, but you would expect that. In fact, the Bronco is also totally mechanical with the seats. But once you're in here and you're adjusted, everything is fine. I also have decent legroom in the back as well, and once again, the excellent headroom does continue. But if you're super tall, you might want to watch out for the legroom. That's the only thing. But this should be able to fit most people under 6'2" really comfortably. And if you have children, I would definitely suggest optioning in the side steps, because this thing, it is pretty high off the ground. We have like 10.5 inches of ground clearance, so something to keep in mind there. But most adults, you should be able to like step in here without a side step. That should be okay. And the trunk space is also really good, but you do have one of those interesting split opening tailgates. But once you have it opened up, I mean, really practical, good space. Once again, you can fit tall items back there due to the shape of the Ineos Grenadier. And before we move on, I just want to quickly touch on the exterior looks of this thing, because everyone is looking at it. People love the Ineos, and the first time I saw this SUV, it was actually at Costco of all places, and it was a black one, and I genuinely thought it was like a old school classic Land Rover Defender that somebody did a resto mod on. But then I checked the logos and everything, and it was totally different, and that's when I saw that this was the all-new Ineos Grenadier. And I drove past this Bentley dealership, and they had a whole bunch of them in the back lot, and I was like, wow, that's pretty awesome. So I just stopped by and wanted to do a review. So they were really nice and hospitable, and they allowed me to do this video. But all right, let's go ahead and let's move on to the next segment. All right, in this section of the review, I want to quickly go over the various trim levels of the Grenadier SUV. We can also talk about some of the other products Ineos has to offer and some basic specs as well that I thought would be important for potential buyers to know about. When you're on the Ineos website, you can see their various vehicle offerings. So we have the station wagon, which is the Grenadier SUV. Then we have the Quartermaster. Interesting names for sure, but that's going to be your pickup truck offering, and it's going to start at $87,000, which is certainly steep, and I wish it would start closer to 70 grand, similar to the SUV, but it is what it is. Wealthy clients, they're going to eat that right up. The Grenadier, it's proven to sell really well so far, especially at this Bentley dealership I'm at. So when the truck hits, yeah, that's really going to sell out as well. Anyway, let's move on to the Fusilier. Again, interesting names, but that's supposed to be your EV, full electric Ineos SUV. And not just the full EV, but they're also going to offer a range extended electric model. So I'm assuming it's going to have a small engine powering the vehicle as well. And finally, we have the Grenadier 1924. That's going to be your first edition or your limited edition Grenadier. But let's go back up to the regular station wagon and let's cover the difference between the standard base model Grenadier, the Trial Master, and the Field Master. All right. So a base Grenadier, as you can see from the spec sheet on the Ineos website, it's going to come with a full box-sectioned ladder frame chassis. We're going to have the Carrero beam axles in the front and in the rear, and these are 5-link suspension, both in the front and in the rear. We also have heavy-duty coil suspension, the permanent 4-wheel drive center differential lock, 2-speed transfer case, it's a galvanized steel body, and the list goes on. And as we can see, the Recaro seats do come standard. However, you're going to get the cloth Recaro seats with the base Grenadier. However, you can build this base model up to your liking for sure. But if we move on, the Trial Master, that's going to be your off-road focused Grenadier, and it's going to come with 17-inch steel wheels, which I absolutely love the looks of these steel wheels. The base Grenadier also comes with steel wheels, so yeah, if you like that look, certainly go for it. But practically speaking, I think the 18-inch alloy wheels found on the Fieldmaster is the more practical choice, and we already have pretty sloppy and slushy steering here, so having the larger wheels kind of helps with the precision a little bit. But anyway, it's up to you at the end of the day. I like the way both wheels look, but with the Trial Master, you're going to get the raised air intake, you're going to get the exterior utility belt, an access ladder, interior utility rails, the auxiliary battery, a compass, and you get both the rough pack and the smooth pack with the Trial Master. So that rough pack, it's going to get you the differential locks both in the front and in the rear, and you're going to get everything with the smooth pack as well. When you go with the Fieldmaster or the base Grenadier, you're going to get the smooth package as standard, and if you want, you have to pay up for the rough pack. But the Fieldmaster is great because you get those safari windows, and by the way, those windows that I demonstrated in the interior segment of the review, those windows can actually be removed as well, not just lifted up for extra air. You can just completely remove it. But yeah, the Fieldmaster also comes with the access ladder, you got the leather trimmed seats, heated front seats, and once again, you get the compass as well. And let's go ahead and let's build this Fieldmaster Grenadier. So you got the BMW 3-liter inline 6 with the 8-speed automatic transmission. That comes standard across the board, and no, there is no manual transmission. Even if they offered it, hardly anyone would buy it anyway, so it is what it is. And you have some beautiful colors to choose from. Literally every color looks great on the Grenadier, but personally, I like the black and the dark gray. When I first saw the Grenadier, it was in full black, and I don't know, it just matches that retro Land Rover Defender look so well with those dark gray and black colors. But you can choose like a ruby red, a dark green, a tan color, the blue that I was reviewing in the video, and even silver. I mean, all of these colors look great on this SUV, so that's going to be up to you on what you prefer. But here's a important aspect that I want to bring to your attention. So I mentioned that the KO2 tires are one of the OEM tires that Ineos chose for this SUV, and that's great, but you don't have to get them. In fact, standard with the Fieldmaster, you're going to get the Bridgestone all-terrain tires. And as you can see, the Bridgestone all-terrains, this is a great tire choice because we have those vertical lines going down the tire, and this helps to evacuate water from the tires. So the wet performance of this Bridgestone all-terrain should be great, and it should be even quieter still than what the KO2s have to offer. Getting a Fieldmaster with these Bridgestones, this is going to be your most refined Grenadier possible. I mean, the KO2s, that's still decent. It's a respectable tire, and we are all very familiar with those tires and its performance. But yeah, the Bridgestone is great because I already mentioned in the driving segment just how quiet the Grenadier is from a wind noise perspective. If we can just reduce that tire hum further with those Bridgestones, that would be great. But yeah, you have various little accessories that you can choose from as well. And moving on, you can even get a light gray interior, which is essentially like a white interior. I really like that. And they're saying that the quote-unquote premium sound system comes standard on the Fieldmaster. I already talked about its performance. I like the brightness and the sound quality. It's just that we had a buzzy bass with the audio system. That's the only con I noticed. But moving on, if you want the KO2s On the Fieldmaster, you can obviously get it by choosing the rough pack, which my test model did come with the rough package. So that's $2,850. You get the KO2s and you get the differential locks for the front and in the rear. And there's a bunch of other packages and options that you can choose from. Like if you like the raised air intake, you can get that with the Fieldmaster. It's just something you have to pay extra for. You can choose the side steps or the rock sliders. It's really your preference. If you have children, I would go for the side steps. But yeah, you can get a winch, you can get a shovel. I mean, it's amazing all of the accessories that Ineos themselves has to offer with this product. You can also get, auxiliary switches added to this SUV. And if you get everything, I mean, you can certainly push 6 figures with this SUV easily if you get it fully loaded with all of the accessories Ineos has to offer. I personally wouldn't go too crazy with it. I would like to keep this in the $80,000 range. That would be perfect, and that's the best value proposition as well. But yeah, hopefully you appreciated that rundown of the options and the trim levels. I hope that may have cleared up some confusion. But yeah, some basic specs that I wanted to cover that I thought was important for you to know about is the towing figure. It can tow over 7,700 pounds. That's really impressive, and that certainly outdoes, the Broncos, the 4Runners, and the JL Wranglers. But just so you know, a Land Rover Defender can also tow quite a bit, over 7,700 pounds as well. In fact, certain trims can even tow more than this Grenadier. And even basic luxury SUVs like a BMW X5, that can tow over 7,000 pounds depending on the trim level. But no, this is great. This is a very capable machine, the Ineos Grenadier. In fact, it would make for a phenomenal farm vehicle, with its amazing off-road capability, the fact that it can tow a lot. Yeah, it's a great work machine if you look at it from that perspective. And also the fuel economy, it's about 15 in the city and 15 out on the highway, which sounds like total trash, and it is, especially when you have to utilize premium fuel. But here's the thing, the city fuel economy, getting 15 is totally acceptable in my opinion, because even most generic 3-row family SUVs like a Nissan Pathfinder or a Mazda CX-9, a CX-90, or a Honda Pilot, all of those types of SUVs, in the real world, they will get about 17 or 18 in the city. So getting 15 with the Grenadier, not a big deal. But the highway MPG, now that's really poor. That's really the only con, in my opinion, getting 15 out on the highway. Other generic SUVs can get, over 20 out on the highway. So that's your only real con. But if you're keeping this in the city, getting 15, not a big deal. And we have here a 5-year, 60,000 mile warranty. We have a 3-year, 60,000 mile warranty on the paint. And the service intervals, that's interesting because it's like a 1-year / 12,000 miles service interval. But they say that if you're a true off-roader and you're putting the Ineos through heavy use, they want you to service this SUV every 6 months or every 6,000 miles, just so you know. But yeah, that's everything I wanted to cover. Let's go ahead and let's conclude this review. Alright, concluding thoughts on the 2024 Ineos Grenadier. Is this SUV for everyone? Absolutely not. This is certainly targeted at a wealthy individual who likes something that's totally different, and I think that's why so many owners and even reviewers like and appreciate this product despite some of its compromises. And really the main compromise you have to make is regarding the steering and the constant correction that you always need to make out on the road. I mean, if you're coming from something like a Jeep Wrangler, then you're already used to doing that. Heck, I mean, the new JL Wrangler isn't exactly perfect, but I see people out on the street driving much older Wranglers, like the JK Wranglers and older than that, and they are flying down the street at like 300 miles an hour. So really, there's a lot of off-road enthusiasts that don't really mind this type of driving character. But for me, I love this thing for its exterior looks. The fact that it looks like a resto mod Land Rover Defender is incredible to me. For 80 grand, you buy yourself a Fieldmaster edition. It is such a cool, different, prestigious automobile. I'm glad that in this world full of generic SUVs, this thing exists, it stands out, it's unique, it's special, and most importantly, when you sit in this product, it does not feel like you are in some first attempt automobile. No, this feels like a truly finished, high quality machine, both the exterior and the interior. It's incredible just how solid this thing feels. There is no creaking or rattling. That interior is properly built. You feel like you can just take a baseball bat to it. So that's impressive. You have decent practicality as well. I have good headroom and legroom in here. The trunk is a nice size. The features and the accessories, that's amazing. Infotainment was a bit slow to respond, but at least it does have wireless CarPlay. And the final thing that really impressed me about the Grenadier is the way the engine sounds. So we have your classic BMW straight six engine, but unlike with the generic BMW products that use this inline six engine, with the Grenadier, this B58 genuinely sounds amazing. It's got some real grunt to it. It's got a nice low end rumble. It's really satisfying to listen to that engine. It makes me wonder why it doesn't sound this good in the actual BMWs, but it sounds amazing here with the Ineos, so I'm glad to report that. Again, the character and the immersion is phenomenal, and I already talked about just how surprisingly quiet the Ineos is. I think a lot of that can be contributed to the amazing build quality because this SUV is so solid. It's keeping out a lot of the wind noise, and if you go with the regular Bridgestone all-terrain tires, it's going to be an even more quieter driving experience, and your wet performance should improve as well with those Bridgestone all-terrain tires. So yeah, that's my review. I am a fan. I love this thing and its swagger, and apparently a lot of clients also seem to appreciate this SUV because I remember this Bentley dealership had a lot more Grenadiers than what I currently showed on the lot. So people have really just been buying these things up. And if you also want to purchase one of these Grenadiers, I'm going to have Bentley High Point, North Carolina's information in the description box of this video. I'll have their address and their phone number so you can contact them because they still have a decent selection with some great color options on their lot currently, and they can ship nationwide as well. So if you found value with this content, make sure to like and subscribe. And if you are a current Ineos owner, let us know in the comment section how it's been holding up for you, how you like your new SUV. But thank you again for watching. Take care and goodbye.